great state of Texas. Tonight, we've got a powerhouse story: faith, family, football, and financial freedom all rolled into one.
And I'm your co host, Arlington Tasiafe, tuning in from Norman, Oklahoma. Boomer Sooner. Together, we're bringing you another hot seat episode where we go beyond the headlines and dive deep into the lives of Pacifica leaders.
Tonight, our guest is someone who has worn many jerseys from Texas A&M, the NFL's Minnesota Vikings, Dallas Rugby, and now he's leading a new kind of team, helping families across America build wealth and legacy. He's a proud Tongan, a husband, a father, and a regional vice president with Primerica.
That's right. And tonight, we're putting him right here in the hot seat. Get ready for a conversation about perseverance, culture, leadership, and what it really means to build a future for your family and your community.
So, family, make some noise because in the comments and show some love because joining us tonight on Pulse of Polynesia is none other than Lee Foliaki. What's up?
Let's go, let's
Welcome,
go, let's
Lee.
go, man. Thank you
Welcome.
guys for having me, man. It's a big blessing, and I don't take it lightly. And I'm thankful that you guys wanted me to be a part of your beautiful platform.
It's great
Awesome. Thank you.
for our viewers just to understand how unique this opportunity is. But then we're broadcasting all across the Pacific and across the globe. But we have two in Texas, and I'm in Oklahoma. We're like for me and Lee, I think it's probably what a few hours away, 2 3 hours, and
Yep.
we're also not too far from there. So here we are running things from. Do we call ourselves the Midwest or Southwest?
Probably, yeah.
All right, let's
Awesome.
get
Well,
right into
let's
our
get started with the questions.
yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So Lee, let's paint us a picture. What was life growing up in Euless in a Tongan Samoan household?
Growing up in Ulis, just like many Polynesians, right? The humble beginnings. We didn't have much, but we had enough. Okay. I didn't know that we were poor until I got older and I started to reflect on life. And I was like, man, we really didn't have much, but we had family. Okay. So growing up in Ulis, it's heavily populated with Tongans and Samoans. And our Polynesian culture here in Ulis is very tight knit. So the community, backs each other up with whatever it is, maybe with supporting the kids or just supporting each other. But yeah, humble beginnings, man.
You know what? For a lot of folks, I think a lot of folks already know about Euless because you guys put us on the map, right? You guys are like the ones that did the Hakka, and everyone's like, "What is this?" And then they said it's a college team. I remember when I first seen it, people said, "Yeah, it's that college team, down in Texas." It's like I've never heard of a, college team. And they said, "No, that's a high school team." So, were you part of that group that started that down there?
I wasn't a part of the Hakka traditions that started after me, but we were part of setting the foundation. I always tell people, because when you leave something, whether you built the foundation or not, you want to start something while you're building it, and then eventually you hope it grows into something beautiful. But no, the haka started after me, and
Oh,
it's cool because I had family members that went to Kahuku too, and they're like, well, we've been doing the haka and all this stuff, but Texas football is crazy, so
yeah.
any little thing that catches attention, and it goes viral. So they seen some of these Tongan and Samoan kids doing the haka, and every platform with the media was reposting and sharing it. So yeah, it's a big deal.
Oh yeah, living in
Nice.
Oklahoma when we seen that, people knew those were polys, and I remember folks coming up to me and say, "Hey, is that your folks?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's my folks down there." Staying on that subject, so what core values, did your parents instill in you, and that still guide you today?
I would say first and foremost, faith is number one, right? That's the foundation of not only my household, but I know all Polynesian households. Our faith is number one, and then I would just say, service. Being a servant, and just working hard. I see my dad. He worked 6 days a week, but he took off on Sundays for church, and that was just kind of the dynamics
Mm.
at home. But that instilled in me that I needed to stay faithful. I needed to serve others, and I needed to work hard with whatever I had my hands on. So
Mm.
yeah, those were the
Mm.
core values that my parents instilled in me, and I'm starting to instill in my kids.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I love
Well,
it because
speaking
you
of your
really,
dad, your
yeah.
dad came into the oh, sorry.
No, go
Your
ahead,
your
Les.
dad came to the US without speaking your dad came into the US without speaking English. And I learned that your mom only spoke English when she's excited. What did watching them teach you about perseverance?
It taught me a lot, man. It always humbles me, right? So like those times that you face adversity or you face tough times, like you always want to reflect on life and like because I always think about what my dad did.
Mm,
You know, I was born in Tonga. My dad came here to the States first to get established. He found a job. And I always think like, we complain about a lot of things in life, man, but our parents and the older generation
mm,
that kind of just figured it out. My dad didn't speak English, but he had work ethic. So as soon as he got a job here, he saved up money, he stayed with his sister, and he sent for me and my mom. And that's just a crazy story in itself because I was a newborn. Okay, my dad came first to get established. My mom and I came. We stayed in Samoa for a year. My mom speaks fluent Samoan, man. So the funny story is when she met my wife, I was trying to give my wife a heads up. I said, hey, my mom speaks fluent, man. So I hope you're ready to to interact with her. And my mom always gets excited when she sees other Samoans because she just wants to exercise, how fluent she is. But yeah, as far as the
yep.
perseverance, man, yeah, it's a big deal. I'm humbled all the time when I self-reflect and think about my parents, man, and that's what keeps me going.
Hmm.
So, do you remember your earliest dream as a kid? Was it always football? Is that something that was ingrained into your life as you were growing up in America?
I would say it wasn't at first. I wanted to be like a firefighter because when you watch TV you see you see all of these these movies and
Yeah.
stuff. I always just thought firefighting was you rode around on a fire truck putting out fires. I didn't think they did anything else besides that because when you're a kid you just think like it is so cool to ride around on the fire truck. But I got introduced to football at an early
Yep.
age, and a lot of people because I didn't start playing until a little bit later, maybe my later years in elementary, while all the other kids were playing already. And my mom was just afraid that I would get
Hmm.
hurt, but she didn't know I was getting tackled and slammed by the older kids in the neighborhood. Because we used to play tackle football outside. So that's what introduced me to football. And I kept begging my mom. I was like, Mom, I want to play football, man. I think I'm good at it. And she was like, No, you're gonna get hurt. You're gonna get hurt. But she didn't know what I was doing outside of the house. So I fell in love with football at a young age, and then I started to see some of our Polynesian people show up on TV as well, and that changed the game for me. I was like, man, you know what? I want to do that. I want to be him. I want to be Junior Seau. You know what I mean? So when I seen Junior Seau on TV, it was big
Mm.
inspiration for me to just want to pursue football and see where it would take me. So
I just want
So I have
to
to
point out.
ask, in regards to that question we just brought out. Sorry, Arlington, just real quick on this one. You
Yeah, go
know,
ahead.
um, a lot of kids are influenced by different things, but it seems like the influence that was around you was more athletic. You just talked about your mom didn't know that you were actually getting tackled by the kids, you guys were playing. So was the influence around you good in Euless where you were growing up in? Or
I
did
would
you
say
face some challenges?
um, I would say the influence was good. Ulis is still old school, right? Like people still if you had a problem
Mm.
with somebody, like they still kind of like nobody turns to guns and stuff like that. If you had a problem with somebody, they go, like just back in the days, you go,
True.
hey, I got a problem with you. Either we go outside and handle it, or we just squash it. But there wasn't too many bad influences because our city really is tight knit, and we really care about what happens to other kids, whether they're yours or not. So no, I love
Mm.
growing up in my city, and it was beautiful just being around other Polynesian people.
Nice. Sorry, Arlington, go ahead.
No, there's like a lag, Lasso. So I know we're stepping on each other because there's like a lag. Was there a lag on your end, Lee?
Okay.
Um, Not kind of, but I'm just
Okay.
I'm just trying to pause a little bit, and then
Yeah, I'll slow down a bit because it seems like there's a
Okay.
slight lag in here. Okay. Um,
Okay.
just wanted to. Was there any comments? I want to make sure we acknowledge our viewers, Lasso, before we go too far.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So Lee, I forgot to remind you, we do have it's a live session, so you're going to have some comments that come through.
Okay.
So here's our first one for the night. Um, it's from Janet in Oklahoma. Good evening, Pulse of Polynesia family. Okay. Yeah, it's alofa. Okay, so wanted to go back to what you mentioned earlier about when your father brought you guys over. So you shared with us about your social security number and not having one, coming to the states. How was that, and how did that shape your view of opportunities?
It was tough. I didn't understand what a social security number was. I didn't understand that coming to the States, they just wrote my name on my mom's passport to allow me to get into America. And I didn't know the severity of that until it was time for me to fill out college paperwork. I always asked my mom and dad, I was like, hey, I know we're struggling. I know you guys are, working all the time and I want to help you guys out. And they always just told me to focus on school and football when I had got into football. So they never really just shared with me that I didn't have one, but they just said to focus on school and football, and not to ask them for anything. They said not to ask them for money because money needed to be sent back to the islands for my siblings. So I never asked my parents for anything, and it kind of that was good and it was bad. But the good thing about that, it taught me that I wasn't gonna make excuses of my situation, and I was going to make the best of my situation. And it also taught me to network and build relationship with friends. So I had friends that were working at fast food restaurants. I had friends that were working at clothing stores, and it wasn't like I was using them. They just thought it was cool to hang out with the superstar athlete, and I just really love to hang out with people. And during that process, they're like, Lee, do you want food? Hey, do you want clothes? And my friends just always hooked it up. But yeah, it was tough, man, not having the social security number because it limits a lot of the things that I'm able to do. So but I didn't use that as an excuse because I know there's other people that have way tougher situations than simply me,
Yeah.
because I know other people that are still thriving with that same story. So
Yeah.
No, I agree. It is a humbling experience, and myself coming from Samoa, it was the same thing. I think a lot of it is sort of like an eye opener. Things for me, it wasn't the social security number. It was a lot of things that, like a debit card. I didn't even know what a debit card was. Coming to the states, I didn't even know how to open a bank account, and
Yeah.
the military gave you like it was before they had direct deposit. They literally actually give you like cash. So I had like $700 in cash,
wow.
and like, what do I do with $700 in cash other than throw it in my wall locker? So yeah, being introduced to a debit card. So there's a lot of things that you sort of become familiar with. You had to learn real quick because now you're an adult. Um, so so you come full circle, by teaching and coaching at your alma mater. So what did giving back to that community feel like for you?
It was a blessing, Arlington. It was a blessing because as I started to go through the school system, we had one guy by the name of Fred Katoa. He was working in the school district, and he was just one of those guys that was on the faculty that kind of just kept all the Polynesian kids in line, right? I'm grateful for him still to this day because had he not been in that position, a lot of us maybe wouldn't have graduated high school or maybe received
Mm,
scholarships or maybe just gone down the paths we should have just because he was instrumental of about keeping us in track. So for me, I was inspired by that because I was like, man, I want to be like him. It's just crazy because I always see a Polynesian person that's doing good work, whether it's sports or in the communities, that inspires me. So when I seen Fred, helping out, us kids growing up, I wanted to do the same. So getting into the school district was, that was always the end goal for me. I knew I was going to play football. I wanted to be on TV. I wanted to put the city on the map. Wanted to give a shot at chasing this NFL dream. But the overall goal was to come back to Euless and give my knowledge and my experiences, my failures back to these kids, man, because they need it. Okay. And,
mm,
and, and the cool thing about,
Yeah.
doing things and checking off the boxes, some of the kids kind of appreciate that because they know your story. They know you've gone through the process. So I've got something to give away to them. So yeah, the community was real receptive, man. And like I said, it was always a dream to come back and coach at my alma mater. So it was beautiful.
Yeah. And there were a few
Yeah.
that didn't recognize you when you came back. Go ahead and share you. It was kind of comical when you mentioned that last night. Some people were like, who are you?
Yeah, no, because I want to say I started the long hair. This is when I had hair too, Arlington. I started to grow my hair out at Trinity. Nobody really had long hair, but it was just me and a couple other boys started to grow our hair out. And then and I left to junior college and I kept growing my hair out. So, we were into the long hair don't care vibe. But when I came back, I'm bald now. I'm a little bit. I have some pounds on me. So people are like, "Who's this guy? Did you just move into town?" And I just thought it was funny because some of these kids I was starting to mentor and coach, I went to school with their parents. Okay, they were my classmates. So I'm like, "Who's your dad?" I'm like, "Dude, come here, man. Let me slap you." But it's funny, man. So yeah, it's good laughs.
I love that. That is really funny though, to be able to, come back and then relate to these youngsters who don't even
Right.
know who you are, but then you find out, oh, I know your parents. Don't
Right,
start with me.
right.
But you know, let's let's go back to when you walk into a room, knowing that you have all these accolades and you've accomplished all this and you come back to Ulis. When you walk into a room, what do you hope people see first? Your culture, your faith, your work ethics, or something else?
Well, I hope people see all of those things when I walk through the door, right? But the first thing that people gravitate to is just my energy.
Mm.
I know when I walk in a room, it's like I don't know. I've always heard my coaches say this. They're like, "Man, when Lee comes in the room, he just lights the room up," and I never understood the meaning of that. And as I got older, that's just my personality, right? I'm always smiling. I'm always singing. I'm always just doing it doesn't seem like anything's too serious, right? But when I walk into the room, like
Mhm.
people they see me with a smile, and I heard somebody say if you're smiling and somebody else sees you smiling, it just naturally makes
Right.
that other person want to smile. So that's what people see first. They see
Yeah.
my energy, and then once we get to talk and kind of just fellowship and get to know each other, they'll find out that the faith and the roots and the culture and all of that stuff, it's all aligned and all the above. So yeah.
Yeah. I totally agree. Like when we had our test run last night, I was just telling you guys earlier, my husband, I had to chase him out of the room because he was like, the conversation is so interesting. He's just making me laugh with his stories. And I was like, get out, get out. But yeah, I truly believe that every word you say. So take us back to Texas A&M locker room. What was your mindset before the injury?
Before the injury, it was just to do what I had to do to position myself to have a chance to get to the next level. Okay, so
Mhm.
obviously the next level is the NFL, and if anybody's playing sports or you're competitive or if you got dreams and goals, obviously that is the end results for anybody playing football, right? The biggest stage,
Yeah.
the highest level, that's what we're fighting for. Every day is a dogfight. So to take you back to the locker room at A&M, I transferred in from Kansas. I was a junior, just hungry, just wanted to be guided, just wanted an opportunity because coming from Kansas junior college, after winning the national championship, there was a buzz around my name again to go through recruiting for the second time. But when I got to A&M, it was just I was on a mission. I wanted to learn as quick as possible. I wanted to pick up on the system so I can get on the field as soon as possible. So that's all I was focused on. Obviously, you'll hear a lot of times athletes will tell you that they don't think about getting hurt or what if I do get hurt? Because if you think like that and you play like that, it'll slow you down and then you will end up getting hurt.
Mm.
So the injury, um, like I was telling you guys last night, I just felt like it was a reality check because I was balling, I was doing my
Mhm.
thing, I was starting to show up on draft boards, and then boom, just in a matter of a few minutes, my season's done. And I know I told you
Mhm.
guys last night, I was calling home wanting to be comforted, and my mom's like, when's the last time you've been to church? And I'm like, dude, what? Like, can you hug me through the phone, mom? Like, what are you talking about when the last time I've been to church? Because in that moment, see, Lee Foliaki is feeling sorry for himself.
Right.
And I'm wanting to be comforted because I'm a big mama's boy, but my mom don't play
Mhm.
that. She told me when I got to school, I better find a church and get my butt in there every Sunday, and give thanks back to
Yeah.
God. So that
Yeah.
was humbling in itself, but it just taught me a valuable lesson to get back to the basics. So before the injury, it was all focused on getting to the
Yeah.
NFL, and then post injury, it was getting back to the basics and leaning on God a little bit more because that's the foundation. So
Yeah.
Going back to this injury of yours, right? So you injured yourself, and now you're talking about having that mindset to play through the pain, and all. So you now have the cast on, and you play your final two games with the cast. What is going through your mind as you're playing those last two games?
yeah, so great question, Arlington. So just to go back just a little bit, right? So I signed with University of Colorado out of high school. They placed me in Kansas to be closer to them at a junior college. So I had to kind of take a detour. So I served my time there. I felt like I was on probation, right? Served my time there. Ended up winning a national championship, and then I went through recruiting, signed with A&M, and then we played Colorado my very next season, and I ended up winning an overtime game against the team I signed up or
Mm.
signed for, signed a scholarship to
Yeah.
play for. And then the very next year, that's when I got hurt, and it was against Colorado. So all of these things surrounding me and them, it was just ironic, man. But no, the mentality was
Yeah.
more time I sat in that rehab corner, Arlington, I
Mhm.
just felt like my stocks kept going down and down and down and down. And I kept telling my trainers, I was like, hey man, can you do x-rays every day? I was like, is my arm good? Is my arm good? Because I fractured. So in your arm, you got two bones, and it was the radius bone in my right arm that I fractured. So there, I've got a plate and 6 pins in this arm. But I just kept asking, can you put a cast on it? Am I healed? Polynesians heal different. Like
Right.
I know you guys are telling
Yeah.
me what you know from what you learned in school and what you got a degree to tell me, but dude, us Polynesians are different. We're built different. And they're like, Lee, no. So every day I just kept asking and asking because my all I was thinking about, Arlington, was all of these days and these hours and these long summers of
Mm.
preparing to get to this moment, just to position myself to have a chance. So that was what was going through my mind. So yeah, I told him put a cast on my arm, and it's kind of hard trying to tackle Adrian Peterson and that Oklahoma team because with one arm. But it was just something I was gonna do. I've always done hard things, so that was just another hard thing to add to the list.
I
Yeah.
have to segue
Yeah.
just a little bit, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but were you part of that A&M team that was down 70 something to 0 against OU at third quarter?
No, Arlington, that was the season before.
Okay.
So that was the season before. I think they lost 7-7 to something. But when I signed with A&M, like, dude, everybody and their mom was like pissed off. I'm like, dude, what are you guys so mad about, dude? They're like, you didn't see A&M? They got whooped by OU like 77-0 the year before. And I'm like, I didn't see that, and I don't care about that because I'm here to change that. So, but I do remember that.
Yeah, and you mentioned you had friends on the OU team. I forget the kid's name, CJIU, right? You
Yeah,
were playing against him, yeah.
yeah. See so what's cool was I think my first year, I got voted Big 12 Newcomer of the Year by the sports writers here in the Dallas Fort Worth area, and CJ got voted the next year. So my senior
Nice.
year, he was Big 12 Newcomer of the Year too. So it was cool to see two poly guys.
Yeah. Now you guys, they had a good group of polys in the Big 12 around that time. So yeah, and I remember that it was just a great feeling to see the names because it's not like right now we're sort of overpopulated right now. But back then, when you see one or two, it's like, oh man, you're gonna go and watch. So,
Right.
um, so let's look at draft day.
Mhm.
Now that you've sort of gotten over, the college, and thinking, you were headed to Tampa, then going to Minnesota. What was the emotional roller coaster like? Can you share that with us?
Mm.
Uh, it. I mean, I knew my situation in Arlington. I knew that my stocks had went down, and there was probably a possibility that I would go undrafted. So I ended up signing with an agent that
Mhm.
deals with those types of situations because he could put me in the best possible situation, right? So there were a few teams, right, that were calling me, asking what's the closest airport. So it was the Giants, the Titans, the Jets, Jacksonville. Um, I worked out for the Cowboys, but as far as the roller coaster, dude, it was crazy because I'm getting text messages through the whole day. They were like, "Dude, you
Mhm.
might go here," and then it
Mm,
changes like the next minute, right? And there was people here at my house.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have a big thing, and I just, people wanted to come and just hang out and be a part of and I wasn't gonna stop them from doing that. So we just had a small barbecue here at the house. But every round, what it just seemed like my anxiety was getting crazy, and I was just getting more anxious. Each round that kept going without a phone call or just being called on, I just felt like that little window of hope was slipping away. But
mm,
I stayed faithful. I knew, what was on the table, what was on the line, especially with my injury. So, yeah, the draft ended, and it was just one of those. I had to come back inside because everybody was just hanging out outside. I had to come in and kind of just take a minute to just kind of debrief. Um, but yeah, it was a wild day. But I got a phone call as soon as the draft had ended. Got a phone call from Tampa, and they were like, "Lee, hey, we're gonna fly you out Monday. You're gonna be a Buck." And I'm like, "Heck yeah, we're going to Florida." So I went back outside and told the family that we're going to Tampa, and then I started to drive back to Houston. Um, and the plans changed. My agent called. He was like, "Hey, change the plans. You're not going to Tampa. You're going to Minnesota.
mm,
Tampa wanted you to go through minicamp, and then we're going to offer a contract until they saw you go through minicamp and make sure my arm was healthy." Minnesota calls and they're like, "Hey, we got a
Mhm.
contract for Lee. We want to bring him here." And the only problem with that, Arlington, is Tampa would have been a better situation because they had older veteran linebackers that were getting ready to be out of the league, and Minnesota had younger linebackers, and their first round
Yeah.
pick was a linebacker, and it was kind of the room was filled. So
right.
that's how that day went, man. It was a crazy day, but it was a blessing, right? I was just happy to be in that process of potentially having my name called or just landing a spot with the NFL team. So it was beautiful.
Yeah. But you skipped over an important piece here. Like, walk us through that feeling to when the family was all in excitement. Like, share with us, like, what does that feel like, or what was the family's feeling, the
But
atmosphere?
my mom cried. I mean, she always cries, but she cried, right? Because when you have kids and you start to see your kids excel, it just gives you a different emotion. I get emotional thinking about it too because
Mm,
Yeah.
all my parents are thinking about is like, man, this is why we traveled across the South Pacific to come here.
yeah.
This is why. Just this is why. Just to give you an opportunity to go, use your gifts to either bless yourself, your family, or bless others. But this is why. And I even cried on that day, and it wasn't the fact that I knew where I was gonna go. It was just thinking about my parents, right? Thinking if my dad didn't take that chance to come here and kind of just figure it
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
then I wouldn't have an opportunity to do the same. So I I was on a mission, and even though I was doing it for the family, man, it was humbling because my parents were excited to see their son, doing some big things. So
Yeah. No, I love it. I want to
Yeah.
make sure we capture that. And I know in Samoa, when you seems like when you hit that pinnacle or achieve that milestone, they say "wa taunu ul famwe moe." What's the Tongan saying when you've reached that? You know what you strive so hard to get.
ask that again, Arlington.
Like, how do you say that in Tonga? I know there's like probably a phrase that they say when you've reached that goal. Like in Samoa, they say when you reach a milestone, they'll say "wa taunu ul famwe moe." Um,
Um, when you reach, um, I don't know the exact words
yeah.
to translate, but but I know my parents are, they're always telling me to be humble. Because regardless of what milestone, it all comes back to just being able to thank God because He gives us all the blessings. But
Yeah.
uh, I always hear this
Mhm.
term, lotolahi, right? So
Mm,
lotolahi means just to have courage, be humble and just continue to push forward
Mhm.
and always stay strong through whatever adversities or pains or struggles that you go through. And that word always rings loud in my head
mm,
because no matter what I go through, that was instilled at an early age that we're gonna be tough, we're gonna fight, and we're gonna work hard. So, you know, being lotolahi, I think I carry that with me, through my daily and just with whatever I got my hands on.
yeah. No, I love that, and I want to share that because there's a lot of our young ones who are following your footsteps, and I want to give them something like how like Notre Dame is, play like a champ, but we
Right,
need
right.
to provide these goals for our young ones. Let that be a phrase or a word that inspires them. So thank you for sharing that. I love that story that you shared. I always like hearing that moment when you're embracing the family and how the family is sharing that love. Yeah. Sorry, Lee, I also didn't mean to prolong this segment.
No, no, you're good. No, you're good. Um, so how did it feel like when you realized you were in the NFL? Okay, so learning that you didn't have a Social Security at that time. How did it feel to be in the NFL without a Social Security and that it might cost you your opportunity?
Um, I mean, so the Social Security thing, it kind of at each stage of life, football, or life, right? So I get to camp and I face the Social Security
Yeah.
barrier again, right? So the my agent already spoke with the front office management and they were telling them the situation. They were like, "Hey, Lee doesn't have his documents. All he had was a tax ID number to go through life with, but you can't use it for income." And it's just like another job. I mean, the NFL is a high
Mm.
paying job, but they're telling my agent, "Hey, well, we can't pay Lee his signing bonus because he doesn't have his social." So I'm sitting there in camp, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, dude! Like, this is crazy." And my agent had explained to them that during minicamp I was gonna have to miss some days to come back to Texas to receive all those documents. So I finally received my social security number while I was in NFL camp. They held my signing bonus check until I came back from Texas. So I
Wow.
flew down here, took driver's ed. I spent like 2 3 days down here to get all of that stuff. And funny story, I'm doing driver's ed, and there's all kids, and I'm in NFL camp and I'm grown. And the instructor's like, "Is this your first time driving?" And I laugh because I'm like, "No, I've been driving since I was in elementary. But as far as this process, yes, it's first time going through driver's ed. And I'm sorry I look grown, but yeah, this is first time." But I went back to the NFL camp in Minnesota and things changed. So they did give me the green light to come back, but they also held that against me. So I missed reps. I didn't get no more reps from practice, and I was just sitting there. I'm like, well, how the heck did they allow me to come back? But they're now holding that against me in practice. So what happened with how I got released? Some some uh, some other older players, some other veteran players got injured, and in order for them to bring in more veteran players, they had to start chopping people.
Mm,
So I got caught up in the numbers game, and I sat there with the GM. He was like, "Lee, man, you were doing great." Because here's the thing, I I was focused on making the special teams just to get on the roster. That was my focus. I knew I was
Yeah.
going to learn. I just wanted to get in where I fit in. So I was going to learn special teams, and I was second string on all the special teams. So it was looking promising that if I just continue to work hard, I could land a spot. So when I got released, the GM was like, "Lee, you're doing a great job, but this is obviously the business side of things." And Arlington and Leaso, I didn't know if I was supposed to be understanding or should I flip this table because I'm just sitting here thinking like, dude, this is my
Yeah.
life. What do you mean like it's done? But yeah, I came back to A&M, just continue to work out and went back to finish my degree. But that was the end of the NFL journey. So, but to be, long story short, I have no regrets because people always ask this all the time. Lee, do you miss the NFL? And here's the thing: if I had to do it again, I'm still coming back to Texas because that social security number, dude, I've been waiting my whole life for that. And there is life after football. You know what I mean? So
mhm.
I'm still gonna come back
Yeah.
and I'm still gonna get my documents because whether the NFL happens or not, I need this for life. So
Yep.
Wow. There's a reason for everything. They always say that, right? And so, like what you just said, you were able to get that document for yourself, come back and get your degree and get it done and take care of it. And the fact that I was going to ask the question about, did you feel like you belonged there in the NFL? You were trying so hard to fight to stay in, even trying to get on special teams just to get through the roster. But the fact that, you had a choice of either trying to understand if you should be understanding or flip the table, but you decided to do neither and just take the humble road and choose the other path and go back to school. So there was never nothing, never ending for you. But I'm gonna switch gears real quick because you mentioned a story last night that made me love your mom even more because I can relate to your mom a lot with so many things. And you shared a story last night about how your parents wanted you to come to Texas so that you can play at Texas so they can watch the game. Can you tell us about this story?
Yeah. So thanks for bringing that up, Leo. So I'm reliving. I just hear my mom's voice, but yeah. So I I,
Sorry.
I left Texas as soon as high school was done. So I've been in Kansas for 2 years. So my you know the, to drive up to Kansas is about 5 hours. My parents aren't making that drive. Okay, so these days, so the time frame is probably 2001 to 2003.
Mm.
Um, they still have maps. The paper maps. Like my parents took me up there, and I'm like, how
Yes,
the heck
yes.
are we getting to Kansas? So my dad pulls out the paper map, and now they got GPS. So like I was just like, dude, this is a different time. But here's what happened: go to Kansas for some time, and then going through recruiting again. I thought I was going to the SEC, which was like the biggest conference at that time, and it was going to fit my skill set. And I let my mom talk me into coming back to Texas because she's like, son, the community. She started like I felt like she was guilt tripping me. So she's like, the community hasn't seen you. Me and dad haven't seen you play. Your sister hasn't seen you play. Ulis hasn't seen you play. You need to come home. And it wasn't like she was asking, she was kind of telling too. So I was like, are you asking or are you telling me? So she goes, no, you need to come home. We ain't seen you. So I had some options. Could have went to UT in Austin. I could have went to OU, Arlington's team. But, like I said, A&M was not good the year before. And I just seen that it was an opportunity to go there and get in and get on the field now. And the crazy thing about that is they talked me in and they spent every day talking me into coming back to Texas. And here's what's funny about that story. I come back to Texas and they only come to one game. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, because we get tickets, right? And our tickets are good tickets right behind the 50-yard line, by the sidelines. And, I'm calling home, hey, are you guys coming to this game? And mom's like, no, if we'll just be happy if they, we hear your name on TV. And I'm like, you're just kidding, right? And she's speaking to me in Tongan, and I'm trying to be understanding because I'm like, dude, I made a life-changing decision to come back to Texas because you guys wanted to come see me play. And my mom tells a funny story all the time because if you know anything about Kyle Field and College Station and our atmosphere, dude, our fans are nuts. The 12th man is real. These guys do not sit down. And my mom goes, dude, these people are crazy. They scream the whole game. They don't sit down, and I can't hear. I don't even know where you're at on the field. So we're not coming to another game. We're just gonna watch on TV. So good job, son. And that's all she said. And I'm like, this is crazy. So, but yeah, that was that story. But I often think like, what if you always think about the what ifs. What if I end up going to
Yeah.
SEC? But yeah, I wouldn't change that because everything needed to happen the way it happened to get me to where I'm at
Yeah.
today. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that and send my love to your mom because I love her even more just hearing about her.
You
Go ahead,
know,
Arlington. Sorry.
looking back, so much has changed in college nowadays. Um, the NIL, if the NIL existed when you were playing, how would that,
Oh, yeah.
changed in your decision making?
Man, I think about that all the time. And Arlington, like to be honest, I need some back pay. Okay, because the NIL, it's based off your name, likeliness, and image, right? And these
Yeah.
college football it's a business.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they generate tons of money based off what we do on the field, and how big our name is. And me coming out of high school, my name was pretty big, and I see these kids, they're getting paid millions leaving
Right.
high school, right? And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. But no, the kid, I feel like the kids deserve it. I don't have a problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, they did have NIL before, but it was just called
Boosters.
illegal.
Yeah.
It just wasn't legal. And it happens at all schools,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
So I'm just happy that these guys are getting compensated, because you got to think about this. Being a student athlete, there's no time to do anything else but do school and football. Some people still find
Yeah.
a way to have a job, but dude, it's tough, because the grind of maybe having a 15 to 18 hour semester to focus on while you're doing football, and that's like 7 days a week. So no, I love the NIL. I remember I received a check. This was probably 2007 or 2008, because you remember the NCAA video game.
Mm-hmm.
If our name was on there, if you were on the game, or for how many ever years you were on that game, the NCAA cut a check for us because it was a settlement.
Mm.
So we received money for that, just for being on the game, and I just thought it was cool. I was like, man, do we get any more? So, but yeah, no, I love it for these kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like
Yeah.
hearing all the college things. So you guys went to a couple of bowl games, right? What was the bowl package, when you play in these bowls?
Like the gifts.
Yeah.
So yeah, we played. So we had two options. I think because the schools kind of pick which bowl's going to pay the school the most money. So my first year we went to the Cotton Bowl, and it was crazy because the Cotton Bowl's here in Dallas, and I'm like, dude, we can't go to San Diego or Florida, like one of these other bowls, so I can get out of Texas.
Trouble.
I
Yeah.
felt like I was coming
Yeah.
back home, but no. So that year they gave us, I think that's when the iPods came out.
Mm.
And I'm probably telling my age, but yeah, that's when the iPods came out, and I didn't even know what an iPod was. I'm like, how do you work this? How do you use this? And because I still had a CD player, but people were like, yeah, if you got a laptop, you can you put music on here, and I was like, wow. But yeah, it was iPods. It was they gave us a lot of gear. They gave us money. There was a whole lot of stuff, man. The bowl games is where it's at, because
Mm-hmm.
some of the smaller bowls, and this is why I was mad at the Cotton Bowl, because some of my other friends went to smaller bowl games, and they got like camcorders and PlayStations, all these
Wow.
bigger gifts, and I was like, how the heck, we play on New Year's Day, which is a big bowl game, and these guys are going to, like, before Christmas bowl games, and they're getting way bigger gifts, and it didn't make sense to me. So
The university probably got a bigger revenue for playing in a bigger game, but the
yeah,
gifts were probably smaller. Yeah. No, it's just okay. So let's go back. If you could change one decision from your football career, what would that be?
if I could change one decision for my football career, I know this is gonna sound cliche, but I won't change anything, because
Mm.
I feel like every single thing had to either go exactly how it happened to where I get to now. I'm married, got 5 kids, and my wife and I are business owners, but all of the stuff, the life things that have happened had to happen.
Mm.
But to answer your question, because I do want to answer your question, right? When it comes to football, I would say just paying attention to the details, because a lot of us Polynesians, we're born just naturally gifted. We're talented,
Mm-hmm.
but the difference between being talented and knowing details, that's what separates people from going good to great, and people staying in the NFL, and people getting cut from the NFL. It's the details. So for me, I've always relied on my talent, because I'm just naturally gifted. But you've heard the saying, right? When talent starts to slow down or fade,
Mm-hmm.
what do they say? I forgot the saying. I just went blank. But I know the people that pay attention to details, and they work hard, those are the people that are continue to bounce around the NFL because that's just who they are.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, because of you could be the most talented person, but when you get tired, you might take a play off, or I don't want to go work out that day. Well, that guy that's less talented has work ethic, and he's going to continue to work on his craft, paying attention to details. And I just know details in sports, life, faith, business, whatever the case may be, whatever field you're in, it plays a big role. So if I did have to change something, it would be paying attention more to the details, because a lot of the times I relied on my talent, and my talent could only get me so far, because once you get to the NFL, everybody's talented.
Mm.
Everybody's talented. Now, what separates you
Mhm.
from the next guy? And at that level, people are talented and they are paying attention to the details.
Yeah, you're talking about like
Mhm.
the depth of knowledge of the different schemes you're running and stuff like that. I guess that provides some longevity because as you get more senior, you may have lost that ability, but at the same time, you're of value because you can still be inserted at moments of
Right.
the game, or be relied upon as a mentor for someone younger that's coming up. I guess that's where you're getting at with this.
Yep.
Mhm. So let's jump into the setbacks and the mentality and the seeds of benefits. So, you face, I don't know, we might, you may have to stop me to correct myself if this question was already asked. You face a lot of numbers, games, rosters, eligibility, finances. How did you learn to play the hand you're dealt?
Yeah. So because it just feels like life, like with me, numbers and my life have kind of gone hand in hand. Um, Starting from how I came over here, no social, um, just documents and just football, right? Just understanding that I've only had 2 years to play college ball, so I had to maximize every opportunity and every chance that I had to get into the NFL. Facing it's a numbers game, because that's all it is. It's a numbers game. And then even in life, like my wife and I work in the financial services industry. Hard work beats up. Yeah, that's the same. That's it. That
Okay, yeah,
that was the
hard
saying
work beats balance.
I was like, I went blank. I'm like, no, because I hear that all the time. Because I tell people that's the separator, right? Um, but yeah, it's a numbers game. However you want to look at it, however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
Even with the profession me and my wife are in now, it's about numbers. But it's just kind of the way I've learned to play with my hand, because I was telling the person that asked me that question, Leaso, I play spades, right? I don't know if you guys play spades, but sometimes when you're playing with your partner, right, and you don't have a good hand, sometimes some people throw it in because they're like, you know what, this is not going to work. But for me, I'm like, no, let's just see what happens. Let's just see what happens. Let me see how good of a spade player I am. Even with this bad hand, let's just run it. And I've kind of treated life like that too. Just with whatever hand I was going to be dealt, it was up to me how the results was going to come from that situation.
Yo, I want you to walk us through um, the COVID years, right? So you said you spiraled during COVID. Um, what pulled you out of that season?
Mm. Great question. So COVID was crazy for everyone. I was teaching and coaching at the time. We're getting ready for spring break, and then COVID happened the next week. So we started working from home. Okay, and then a few weeks later, my brother ended up committing suicide. Um, and, yeah, it was just tough, man, because that was the probably the toughest loss for me. It hit home pretty hard, and yeah, I didn't know how to handle it. Just started to go down the wrong path, and man, it was tough, man, because yeah, my brother passing away was a big deal, and
Was he
it
here
was just,
in Texas with you guys?
So he
What
he
was
came
he?
from the islands when I was a sophomore in high school, and then he was here. He got into the Navy. He got in a fight, and then he got kicked out for something.
Mm,
But fast forward, he ended up getting married in Australia,
okay.
and that's where it happened. So during COVID, I mean, I kind of still don't have closure with that because we didn't get to go because the borders were shut down.
Mm, I forgot
So
about that. Yeah.
the first time I got to experience Zoom, and that's how we operate in our business now is utilizing Zoom. And when teachers were sitting home during 2020, that's what we were operating. That's what the world was operating out of was online. But yeah, what snapped me out of that, one of my cousins came and she was like, "Hey, they're starting a Biggest Loser contest. I need you to partner up with me." Okay, she's like, we're and it's all Polynesian people. Every now and then they start a Biggest Loser challenge.
Mm,
This is the amount of money that we can win. And I don't know what happened, but I just snapped out of it, and it was like, okay, let's go. And in that moment, I started to see life different, man, because after my brother's death, my perspective changed about life. Because I was sitting there asking God, like, you know, what am I supposed to be doing in my life? So in those moments of struggling and feeling like I'm at rock bottom, I always tell people all the time, that's when the winning is actually happening. That's when the character is actually being
mm,
formed. Is when you're at the bottom and you feel like there's no way to look left or right. The only way to look is up. But my cousin asking me to join the Biggest Loser competition is what got me out, because you got to remember my personality and how I'm wired. I'm still have an athlete's mind. So anything that's competitive, it could have been an eating contest. I would have been like, let's go. But yeah, she wanted me to be her partner, because it was a Biggest Loser, and you had to be two partners, and we ended up winning it. And then from there, just life changed. So that's how we got out of that little funk that we were in during COVID.
yeah. I'm sensing that you're a person that likes to deal with things directly. You don't avoid it, and
Mhm.
dealing with pain. It seems like it was something similar. You're leaning into, dealing with the pain directly. Where do you think you've gained that from? Where did you learn that how to deal with pain rather than trying to ignore it or avoid it altogether? Is that
I,
something? Yeah.
well, I'll just go back to my story, right? Because anytime you're faced with a struggle, adversity or struggle, you have two choices. It's either you take it head on, or you throw in the towel. And for me, I've always just, I don't know what it was. I don't think my parents I don't think they taught me, but I've always like had this mentality that I was gonna figure it out. And maybe that's just because how the cards were dealt to me, right? From
Mhm.
an early age to getting older, I just knew I was going to figure it out. And I knew that if you faced pain head on, it would only be temporary versus kind of just running from it. Because if you run from it, it's still going to be there.
Mhm.
And I just felt like the faster you get this done or get it over, it's just like your dad or my dad, just, that getting disciplined. I'm like, okay,
Let's get it over with.
over with.
Yeah.
Let's get this done. but yeah, lean into the pain. One of my mentors always talking about the difference between buffaloes and cows. When the storm comes, the buffalo charges head on towards the storm, and the cows go the other way. And it just seems like the storm never leaves the cow because they're going with the storm, right? But the buffaloes take it head on, and then before you know it, the storm's past them. So it's very similar to life too, and the life experiences that we face every day. So, yep.
Yeah, I like that. I'm a little bit of the opposite, and you're right, because I didn't realize this. If you internalize something, it sort of backfires, and this happened to me out of the blue. And I'm the type of person that will take bad news and I won't express it. So I'm used to just brushing it off. And I usually think that, I've dealt with it fine because, I'm not stressed over it. But something happened to me one day. It was the military promised me $26,000 a bonus, and they sent me into school. And I went and completed the officer's course, came back, and they said, well, page 13 of your contract shows here you weren't eligible, in the first place. And to me, being burned by the military so many times on bonuses or contracts, I just figured that's me being an idiot. I should have read the contract. So I just brushed it off and said, oh well, it is what it is, because we're used to in the military being burned by contract, not knowing that it was festering in my subconscious.
Uh-huh.
And as I was driving home, thinking everything was normal, I lost feeling in my leg, like my leg and in my arm,
Oh
and
wow.
then my heart started racing. I just turned around and went back to the hospital. They did all the checks, blood checked out. They said, we can only summarize one thing. You had an anxiety attack. I said, anxiety attack? I'm not a person with anxiety. And they said, what happened? What was your day like? I said, calm. He said, what was there anything stressful? I said, no. The guy just told me I lost my bonus, and they said, there it goes. You're the person that internalized it, but eventually your subconscious,
Yeah.
it's happening. It's actually affecting you behind the scenes, not the forward. And then I had an anxiety attack, and I was like, wow, it was crazy.
Wow.
I thought I had a heart attack, but I was grateful it was an anxiety attack. But
No,
glad to hear like how people deal with it on the other side of the
Yeah.
spectrum.
that's crazy because it just goes to tell you like how powerful our minds are, right? Like
Hmm.
Yeah.
even though you're calm, but in the back of your subconscious, like
Yeah,
it's still floating around.
yeah. It's
And
it's chaos
that,
back
that,
there.
that happens to
Yeah.
me every now and then too. See, like um I feel like when I get excited, my heart rate starts to kind of change. But when there's stress added to it, it kind of gets weird. And I'm like, oh wow, what's going on? But I totally understand where you come from.
Yeah, I'm gonna add to this, right? Because like it's one thing being on your own fighting that battle, right? But then at the same time, you're a husband, you're a father, you're a son, you're an uncle, and you're also a friend. Having to deal with these let's just say the anxiety or whatever
Mhm.
issues that come your way. Because I'm like you when it comes to problems or whatever challenges. I have to hit it head on, but I do it. I make myself do it alone because I feel like if I bring someone with me to go through those challenges, I'm burdening them, and I
Mhm.
want to be able to do it alone so that when I tackle those challenges, I could come back and go grab the rest of the gang that's still over there because I'm a lot stronger, right? But I do that with at the expense of my own mental state. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
and then I don't realize I'm actually hurting everybody behind because even though I'm a lot stronger, but I also carry the burden on my back, and I put I think I'm being normal, and I'm bringing them back with me, righteously, but I'm also making them feel the struggles that I felt when I was going through it.
Right.
So with that said, how do you manage as a father, a husband, a son, a friend? How do you deal with those things, and what do you tell yourself, and how do you bring others so that they don't become, feel the burden of their pain?
So that's a great question, and and I think this is value for people to hear. You've got to find an outlet. I still play rugby today. I do rugby every now and then. My,
Nice.
my wife is like, dude, why are you still trying to run around with these youngsters? Because she thinks she's afraid I'm gonna get hurt. But I'm telling her, I'm like, why are you trying to get old? And for me, this is my outlet, right? Because I know if I can just go run this off, whatever I went through throughout the day or the week. See, my wife doesn't know that. She doesn't. She thinks I'm just going out here to be cool, and I'm like, no, this is part of my outlet. I just if somebody can get slammed real quick, or I can run this off, then I'm clear mind and I come back home and I'm fine. But um, to answer your question, I've kind of got into the habit of I'm starting to like running in the evenings or in the mornings, and I would just put my headphones on, and I put a inspirational audio, or maybe some music, some worship music, just something
Yeah.
Mhm.
so I can like have an outlet. So when I'm by myself, I can feel better about myself and deal with these things. That way, the people around us don't get to suffer behind it, right? And
Yeah.
I just know I learned this because before I wasn't in this mental space, but being around other people, my mentors and things like that just have a different perspective on life. Hey, look at my wife. See, my wife's in the chat. She's laughing. But yeah, see, babe, that means I could go to rugby, right? Because I come back home and we no. But yeah, just having an outlet, Leaso, like just having an outlet with whatever it is. You know, some people, I don't know, go walk around the block, go find a punching bag to, you know, I don't know, find something. But I just know for me, you know, going for jogs or walks, man, it's so
Yeah.
therapeutic, man. I wish I stayed
Yeah.
close to the water because I would just go sit by the beach and just kind of just, you know, have some music and just watch the water or the waves or something because I know that's
Yeah.
therapeutic too. But
And keep your eyes closed too at the same time, right?
There's other alternatives that you could be doing that our poly folks are getting in trouble from their wives. Like 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 Ava sessions for the
oh
salmon
man,
people. So
yeah,
rugby is a good alternative.
yeah, we're not trying to go viral with those.
So, you've already mentioned like what you would do, even if you're going through those challenges, the things that you need, everyone needs an outlet, right? Um, what would you tell someone listening to you right now who's at rock bottom?
Wow, that's a great question because I've been there plenty of times. I feel like if you've gone through things, then I mean, it doesn't make you an expert at explaining
Mhm.
how to get out of those situations. But I feel like you have a say, right? Because I've received the most value from people that have gone through things and they're able to maybe guide me through maybe if I'm going through it at that moment. But what I would say to somebody that's at rock bottom, I mean, the only way to go is up.
Yeah.
It's temporary. I feel like because I'm surrounded by a lot of leaders that pour belief and pour positivity into my life and just for my headspace. I just know that blessings are when you're in rock bottom. There's a huge blessing that's on the other end of it. We just got to get through it. And I just always feel like there's no test, no test, no testimony. Um, what you're going through at that moment, it's not happening to you, but it's happening for you. And I just feel like, my wife and I being in the people business, we're counseling, not counseling, but we're kind of just guiding people through life because my wife and I have been there already. So
Yeah.
for me to use my platform with being at rock bottom or facing adversity, I just feel like it's a lot of value I bring to people to get them out of it because it's only temporary. And now when me and my wife face adversities, even though it's tough during that moment, I just know the way I think now is like, man, I wonder what's on the other end of this. Like, what's the big blessing? Like, what is about to happen? Because a lot of people throw in the towel during those times, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
When things get tough, they don't have somebody in their corner. I would just say like who's your support, who are you surrounded by, because a lot of times when we face these tough times, we choose to isolate, and when you're around good people that truly care for you, man, it means a lot because I know when we're at tough times, people always check on us, and just a simple like, hey, Leaso, how you doing? Just thought about you today. And you could have
Yeah.
been going through tornadoes of adversity, right? But just somebody reaching out and just saying, "Hey, how you doing?" I mean, it could lift the spirits. And yeah, just put everything on God, man. You need to pray.
Yeah.
Like the battles that you're facing have already been fought and won. So like, I always just go back to speaking to God and just asking Him like, "Hey, what are you trying to show me right now in this season of life?" And we've come out of all of the storms. And like I said, it's only temporary, but the big blessings are behind that. So just keep pushing through it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that statement, and I think the most important part that you mentioned was also um, there's no other way, to go but up. But you have to make that first step. That first step to recovery is more important. Also, can you bring this comment up that just popped up? Okay, self care is
Not my
very
wife, not my
important.
wife. Everybody else,
Man,
but I see my wife in the chat laughing.
self care is very important and therapeutic as well for oneself. Okay,
Mhm.
thank you. Yeah, a lot of that all ties together, and thanks for sharing there, our viewers. Um, So you know, you're now doing rugby, and I played rugby. You know, there is a difference in rugby and football, but let's hear from you because we had other folks, and we always brought them in just to hear that comparison. Um, what's different from rugby compared to football?
The difference. I mean, for me, it's still a contact sport.
Hmm.
I know in rugby they teach more from a technical standpoint, and I'll just share this because I know when the Seattle Seahawks won the Super Bowl that one year, they invited some rugby professionals to come teach the rugby style tackle because it's more efficient.
Yeah.
Mm.
And for me, I was like, wow, because it is because we've always been taught because we have pads on to put our head across the body on somebody, and
Hmm.
then you still end up getting trucked, or the person still ends up knocking you back. Versus how rugby style tackle is the opposite, and you actually drop somebody right there where they're at. But I would just say there's less plays. Football, there's a lot more things going on like that you have
Hmm.
to look around and pay attention to. Rugby is fun for me. Like football was fun in moments, but like maybe in the games, but practice was terrible. But rugby's all of it's fun to me. Um, Obviously, it's not that big of a deal here in the states, like it is in other countries or maybe in California. But us playing football here, we transitioned into the rugby game. It's a smooth transition because we like contact, we like to be physical, and when they let big people like me run the ball, it's like, okay, where's the little guy? So, but rugby's fun, man. We've all grown up playing it.
Yeah.
Especially still playing football, and I know a lot of the times now, a lot of the Polynesian kids in the off seasons they're playing rugby just to stay fit, and that's one thing I
Mhm.
like about rugby too. I feel like the fitness is crazy because it's
Yeah.
constant running and banging, so they've got to stay fit. So
Is the speed still there? You know, when you're playing rugby, do their eyes wide, open wide? Because I know like a lot of folks they see in the polys and like, oh yeah, they're big, but then when they see us move, they're like, God
yeah,
dang, I didn't think that they can move that fast.
yeah, and that's the thing. See, the thing I love about rugby Arlington is there's no pads. So in football, people there's some guys that talk too much, right? But they can still hide behind their football pads. But in rugby,
Yeah.
if you're that guy that's like causing all this commotion and you're the big talker, well, there's no hiding behind no pads. It's like me and you now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just feel like there's not that much talk in rugby. There is here and there, but it's not like football. But no, you're absolutely right. Because if you're one of those guys that was chirping and I get a chance and I'm running the ball, like, yeah, we're going to have fun with it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
So
we had
go ahead.
Star. Star was a former Manu Samoa player, but he
oh, yeah.
also we asked him, his thoughts of the NFL, but he kind of echoed what you said. The NFL, there's so much movement, so much plays to learn. It's much more complicated than
Yeah.
you would think. So I like that you guys have similar points. Yeah,
Star's a
back to you,
beast, too.
Lasso.
I wanted to add again our conversation last night during our test run. I think the beauty about having rugby as an international sport, right? It's kind of like church. You go to wherever in the world you find a Christian church, you go to it because we all follow the same learning, right? It's the same with rugby. You have Polynesians in a rugby team, and once they find a family, a Polynesian family,
Oh,
they
yeah.
try to push them to that family to keep them because they're already away from their own home, but they want to keep them to not feel homesick. You shared that last night about your family in Pearland and how the saber tooth is it saber tooth right in Houston. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So, my auntie Denise and Laau Afumango, they they live in Pearland, right? And they were one of the first homes because when Pearland's fairly new still, but
Hmm.
when they started to develop that area, my aunt and uncle had one of the first properties there. But yeah, they're my aunt and
Wow.
uncle diehard football people, but when they put a professional team there in Houston, they became like the sponsor parents after the game, doing the cookouts, the luau's, and all of that stuff, and having kava for the players because you just know how it is when you're out of your city limits or what you're used to, and you're in another state. the first thing you're looking for is like, man, I gotta find me some poly people because
Yep.
I need to find the food. I just need to find people to hang around. And that's what we do when we go to these other states. But my aunt and uncle have been that for the Houston rugby team. And I'm always seeing their stories on social media. I'm like, dude, they're meeting all these famous rugby players too, just
Yeah.
because they get to sit there and serve and cater to those guys that are from out of town, and even for the players that travel to come play in Houston. So
Mm.
that's a big deal for them, and I just think that's cool. I just think that's our nature, right? um
Yeah.
there could be a football family, right? And then they see some other polys that are playing on the other football team. They're going to show up and bring food, and
Mhm.
just do the things that we do. So
Yeah.
I'm happy that they're there for people. So
Yeah, I don't know if we touched base on your coaching high school. Did we ask you on that? Because I've learned that you were also a high school coach, right? Because my sister was down. Did we touch base on that? I don't know. I'm sorry.
yeah, I was teaching and coaching back from 2018 to 2020. So
Okay,
I stepped away during COVID, but that's what I got into the school district. I was there for about 3 years. Um,
so I
yeah,
want to ask on that part with the coaching in high school. Do you think that these high school coaches should also implement rugby techniques to help their players? Because we talked about how the Seattle Hawks, I believe, had these rugby coaches come and teach them the right way. Do you think that's the same thing that should be implemented in high school as well?
I think it's y- yeah, absolutely, because you see the results, right?
Yeah.
Those national rugby players came before the season started. It was in the off season with the Seahawks, and we're training them, showing them
Mhm.
how the rugby style tackle is more efficient. And I just think it's more safe because here's the thing: I've gotten more concussions in football than I have in rugby, and it all ties back into just how you approach if you're running the ball or if you're tackling somebody.
Yeah.
And I tell my wife too, she goes, "You're gonna get hurt." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I know techniques now." So so yeah, it's efficient as far as just tackling, but
Yeah.
everything else they can keep the same. But for tackling people, I think the rugby style tackle is very efficient as far as getting somebody
Okay.
down. So
Okay. And also, I want to add one more question too before I switch over to Arlington. We had Coach Kurt last podcast a couple of weeks ago. He had mentioned about gap years. You, as a hard worker, your work ethics is unbelievable. I don't think I've ever seen you in a gap year taken or whatever to other than trying to heal rehab, right? Do you think that these kids should be taking a gap year? Do you believe that's something that they should not do?
like take a break in between,
Yeah,
like grinding,
not go,
or
yeah, not play at all, just to, I guess, work on themselves before they join the team.
I think it just depends. I know if you're talking about burnout, or maybe
Mm,
putting that stress on your body. I mean, you should always take the right steps to with what you're eating and how you're training your body, because your body responds to how you treat it. So as
yeah.
far as the grind, because it's just muscle memory that you're creating with your body. Like for me, um, like I went through this journey, and my body changed, but my body still has been trained for years and years and years. Because my wife, she can't stand. She goes, "Man, you just drop pounds so quick." But no, it's just when I get to active, my body still is
Yeah.
trained to its muscle memory. But um, yeah, I think because they here in Texas, like football is year round, which
Yeah.
I think is crazy. But I don't know. I can't answer that question
It
because
depends.
that's
Yeah.
how it was for me. Like
Yeah.
we never stopped, and it was year round, and we played other sports. But I think there's probably different steps that you can take to make sure that you're taking care of your body and what you're putting into it, that will
Yeah.
prolong your longevity with what you're chasing, and keep you healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Sorry, Arlington. Go ahead.
No, no, you're fine. So, Lee, we're gonna transition to faith, family, and financial freedom.
Okay.
So, meeting your mentor, Jacob Webb, right? What did he say in that first conversation that shifted your thinking?
So Jacob Webb is my that's my guy, right? but I met him, and you know, he was a former teacher and a coach, and you know, that was my background at the moment. But he had stepped away from that, you know, to start his own company. And you know what he said to me, he goes, "Lee, you coaching over there at Trinity?" And I was kind of, because he coached at a big time college here in Texas. I mean, a big time high school here in Texas, and our high schools used to battle. So it was a pride thing when he asked, "Oh, you coaching at Trinity?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." And he just looked at me. He goes, "Oh, you ain't making no money over there." And I'm
Oh.
like, "Hold up," because I just met him. That was my first interaction with him. But here's the thing about me: I will always appreciate when somebody just keeps it real with me. I will
Yeah.
always appreciate when
Mm.
somebody shoots me straight. I will
Yeah.
always appreciate when somebody's just telling me the truth. And he wasn't lying, but it just sucked the air out of me because, like, you know, I'm 6'3", and he's like, I don't know, 5'8". So I'm taller than him, but it just sucked all the air out of me. And I'm like, but before I could respond, he's like, "Hey Lee, I don't mean no disrespect. I just know what that lifestyle looks like. That's my background. That's what I came from. And if I
Mm.
wanted to make an extra $50 just to make extra money, I would have to drive the school bus on a Tuesday to the junior high games. And at that moment, I was like, okay, I do not want to do this for the next 30 to 40 years because, you know, after losing my brother, the key thing for me was just getting my time back. I wanted to
Mm.
control my time. And you know, that's how we ended up transitioning and getting to the financial industry, and you know, kind of just building this company for my family, you know, to build a legacy. But that was the key piece, was time, because you know, we take time for granted sometimes. You know, we go through life, we're
Mhm.
busy, and we forget these little small things until something happens, and then it's like, oh, you know. And I see these memes sometimes where people are like, we should do more of the spending time together with families, and it shouldn't be weddings, funerals, or those occasions that bring us together. And that always hits home for me. So yeah, he said those things, and it just changed my life because my perspective was shifted. So
Yeah. You said that this is still coaching, just a different field. What's the playbook for building financial freedom?
the playbook for financial freedom, that's a great question, because you know, we've all go through the school system, and they teach us math. And then, you know, I've gone to college, and you know, I still didn't know how money worked. You know,
Mhm.
we're still paycheck to paycheck. We're still overspending more than what we're making, and that's just because financial literacy wasn't I don't, it wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
No, you know, my parents only knew what they knew to teach me and my, you know, my siblings. But that just goes from the education of you know, what we're taught, and in school, the math they teach us doesn't necessarily help us get ahead financially.
Yeah.
But yeah, just learning the simple ways and these concepts of how money works, and you know, how to budget your money, how to invest your money, versus savings in a bank. Like if you're wanting to grow your money and put it in these funds, I was telling you know, some people in our industry, my emergency account was saving money in a cash box in the closet, um, which I thought was safe. I thought it was cool. I thought I could touch it right now. But the thing is, you know, my money being in a cash box, it's not growing. It's
Mm.
just collecting dust. So I just didn't know I had access to this information. But I'm lucky that you know, God placed people in my life that I now have access to that knowledge, and you know, I get to share that with our families, right? Because I've seen my, like, you know, when it comes to retirement, when have they ever taught us how retirement works in school? I mean, I,
Yeah.
I can't remember. They don't teach that in math class. But you see, what I found out about retirement is not a, it's not an age. It's a number amount. And the people that retire respectfully and properly, they have enough saved and invested outside of a 401k. Now, see, I didn't know that, and I'm like, hold up, what? Um, so just learning those simple concepts, because I seen my dad also work all of his life
Mhm.
making whatever he was making, and then, you know, get to the age of 65 and retire, and now he only gets a couple $100 check a month, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
I mean, this can't be life. You know what I mean? So just learning these financial concepts, you know, and being able to teach people financial literacy, I think
Mhm.
it's game changer. I just know for our people, that financial literacy is key, because we're already teaching our kids these concepts, because I just feel like the younger you train these kids just of how money works, where they should put their money, what vehicle to put it in, to grow it long term, could benefit them in the long run. Because when even when it comes to investing, right, I was sitting there thinking like, dude, imagine if I would have just started investing a simple $25 to $50 a month in a Roth IRA when I left high school. Who knows? Who knows what happens when I turn 30 or turn 40? And see, the wealthy people, they have this knowledge that they get to pass down to their kids and their families and then their circles. And that was something that stood out to me when we got into the financial services industry. And I thank God, because I tell people all the time, my brother's death was the best and the worst thing that's ever happened to me. It changed my life, because with that situation, God put people in my life that were able to change my perspective and teach us these concepts, and now we get to impact the communities with with this knowledge. And I just feel like us Polynesians, we're super amazing. Like, we're good at everything. Like, my mentor
Yeah.
tells me, like, dude, your superpower is building relationship, and I just feel like that's a superpower for all Polynesians, because
Yeah.
that's what we do. We fit into any circle. It doesn't matter who you are, what color you are. Like, we fit in. Like, I care about what you do for work. I care about what your family,
Yeah.
how your family is, your kids. I really care about that. And I just feel like us working in the people business, it just it rubs off on others. So yeah, getting to teach financial freedom, because we all want to be financially free, but what
Yeah.
does that look like, right? So me and my wife, we're just kind of like your GPS to get you from A to B, with teaching you how money works and those simple concepts.
Yeah, I totally agree with you with everything you say, right? Because like even in the high schools in American Samoa where I grew up, but we they were really stuck to the curriculum that they're told to teach the kids, right? And so when we come to America, I'm opening up all these credit cards because I'm new to the whole credit thing. I was like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh, I got $1,000, not even realizing swiping all that card. It's you're now owing $1,800 and plus interest more after you spend
right.
it. And so then you realize I am in debt above past my head. I don't know. I wish I was that tall, but I'm not. But the fact that you're learning these things now, and like you said, rich people are teaching their kids the tools that are needed. And then now, like, that's why we're so grateful to be able to have this platform, because now, people who are listening and that will be tuning in later, you have Lee Foliaki and his wife who have this business that will help you in the financial aspects of helping you to grow your financial needs and teach you the knowledge. Because otherwise, and like what you said, it's our human nature to be in every different groups,
Yeah,
because we're very friendly. We may look intimidating on the outside for many, but we're very humble and nice, kind, and compassionate. And so, Lee, share with us, how, because like people who are listening in are like, yeah, right. I don't even know if I really want to trust that system. Your wife was the same way. How was it that you were able to bring her to come in to trust the system so that others can also follow that same lead? Because nobody wants to listen to another poly majority, right? Some
yeah,
of them are like, no, no, no. They will actually go listen to somebody else, right?
right.
So how would you go about in trying to persuade them to listen to what you've got going on at works?
No, that's a great question, Leonso. And it's just, with our Polynesian people, sometimes it just takes that you see one of us go and do that, right? Just like for me growing up, I seen another athlete. I maybe seen Junior Side on TV. I seen a cousin, but that just gave me hope. So it's not like we don't believe in our people, but it's like I need to see it,
Yeah.
um, which goes against what we believe, right? Because it's like, I walk by faith, not by sight. But the thing is, with our people, we're still kind of hard headed sometimes, right? I always call it coconut. But the thing is, my wife and I, we're in the financial services industry, and in Texas, me and her are the first state and federal licensed broker in our industry in Texas, first Polynesian couple. And for
Wow.
the whole industry, as far as America, we're probably the number 8th or number 9th. So there's not many of us. So for us to be in this space, Like we had to do a lot of stuff. We had to pass a lot of exams. The state and the federal exams are crazy. And you know, part of me and my wife's partnership was I was going to build this business that we can build a legacy right now and pass this down to our kids. And my wife was going to focus on you know, the licensing for us to get into ownership. And here's the thing: to become financially free, most people don't realize this. You need to make more money. You have to make more money to become financially free, right? And the thing is, you got to start to look at life. Because in our business, we never try to convince people. We just bring value. I'm always going to bring value. So, you know, when the cost of living is up, you got to think about, is your job paying you enough for you to be okay? And a lot of the times the jobs aren't keeping up with inflation. So now you're overworking, you're working more overtime just to make the same money or barely have some left over. So there's a need for money. In our business, we always bring value. So I don't ever sell nothing. Like I said, I'm here and I still teach and I coach and I get to educate. So if you have a contract I need to look at, let's review it. Okay. If my wife and I are fully licensed and we're certified state and federally to handle you know, investments or take care of financial game planning. But that's what we do. And I just feel like for our Polynesian people, my wife and I have got to go make a name for ourselves for people to believe. That's just how the game's going to be. And we're fine with that. Okay. So once we start to open up these offices, because we do have a vision of opening up 10 locations in the next 2 years. And this is my vision, Leaso in Arlington. I want to have the biggest team of Polynesian business owners. That's what was on my heart when I first got into this and I saw the vision. I was like, dude, my mentor asked, how many Polynesian business owners are in Euless? And it was tough for me to say zero, because there's people that self-employed, but there's a difference between being self-employed and being an actual business owner. And that was my vision. I wanted to use these concepts that we teach to change my family's life first, me and my wife first, because we didn't have no retirement, we didn't have no emergency fund account, we didn't have life insurance, and this is all the things that go into financial planning. So I wanted to take care of my family first. And then from there, I was going to go teach the community, because think about this. If you see, how many times do we see, let's say Quick Trip or a gas station, it's like 99 cents gas. Mm-hmm. Do you just sit there and keep that to yourself? Or do you like post on social media, you're texting your cousin, hey, you need to come to Main Street because the gas is cheap? Well, that's how I feel like with this news about what we do. Like, I would be selfish not to share what we do with people, because I'm like everybody's benefits package. I'm your financial GPS to get you from A to B. If you need to make more money, we help you there. If you need to get out of debt, we help you there. If you need to you know, start an emergency fund account, we help you there. If you need a plan for retirement, we help you there. If you need to put money aside in an account to set up these accounts for your kids' college saving funds, dude, we help you there. So there's a lot that what we do with this space. And I just know there's a lot of people watching us, especially our Polynesian people. But like I said, me and my wife had to go do it first, because there's going to be a lot of people come behind us that look like us, talk like us, and walk like us. And we're just happy to be in position. So I hope that answers your question, Leaso.
Yeah, you did. Thank you. Thank you.
No, you're exactly on point there. And a lot of what you said, it resonates, because I think me and Lasso are in a similar walk, right? We try to connect people where the resources, right? There's a lot of things we're not educated on, or we're not grown up with, or not familiar with. We introduce them on our platform and say, hey, here's the solution, or here's, you know, a better way of doing things. But I want to go back to what you mentioned last night, and you probably mentioned when I was gone. I was laughing because I mentioned something about how sometimes I feel guilty of not being too supportive of our Samoan community. And I feel like, maybe I should go devote more time, travel like an hour and a half, spend like 2 hours down there. And then you immediately mentioned something that is very important. Does that add any value, or how much money are you retaining, by supporting that? Sometimes, these good feeling events that you go to, you have to look internally. Is your home stable? And what does that do to that income that you're trying to be financially free? If you're going to devote, like, you don't know how much you're piecing out, right? And in Samoa we call falavelavas. I know you're very familiar with
Yep.
falavelavas, but even without the falavelavas, if you're participating in any community event, you're going to be giving, 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 and at
Right.
some point you're saying, you know, you work so hard to try to build wealth, but at the same time, if you're not budgeting correctly, you can easily release all of that income, and next thing where's the income? Where do you have, is there any savings left? What have you built? So I like what you guys are doing, but that is so important for our Polynesian or Pacific Islanders, is to understand that. And you made a great point here. You can't just sit in one spot knowing that that's all the income. You mean you have to have a vision 4 years, 5 years down. I don't want to be making this same income. If I know I have to build that wealth, either I jump ship or do additional, take on additional responsibilities to build that income. And I like what you also mentioned is I have to prove to the outsiders, I have to fix my internal home, prove to them, follow, I've built this. Look what we have built, and you too can achieve this. I'm going to show you this. So thanks for sharing all of that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right because and here's the thing about the falav lava is like there's nothing wrong with it. But here's the thing: if we've never been taught how to manage money and budget money, then that's where we get in trouble. Because, dude,
Mm,
I grew up where we were with the lights off, um, and just
mhm.
sleeping in the dark. And to me, it's normal because I don't know no better. I'm a kid.
Yeah.
But it was a church event. My parents dumped all their money into church, which I'm not gonna say anything about that. It's okay. Like what they want to do with their money is fine. But the thing is, what happens the next week when the bills are due, or you have to take care of things with the kids? Now you're either trying to borrow money or you're waiting for the next check. And I just feel like if we're mindful, if we're mindful with our funds, like who's to say you couldn't pull something from your emergency fund account because you do have that set aside? You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like I don't see there's a problem with that. But when it's like pulling from the money that's going to bills and you're waiting for the next check, then that's why I feel like we get in trouble sometimes. And that's why I'm saying I keep going to my brother's situation because me and my wife didn't come here because we were interested, Arlington. We came here because we were convicted. God was trying to send us a message that if we continue down this path, we would end up the same way, or we won't have these things that are promised to us because of just having information. And I just felt like, with my dad, because when it comes to retirement, we've done a lot of trainings with the military people, right? One of my wife's aunties, she retired. She served her full term, and we got on here talking life and talking about our financial concepts. And she's like, Lee, I should jump through the screen and slap you. Where were you 30 years ago? Because the thing is, she's still working today.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, and to me, Leaso and Arlington, when I think retirement, I think I'm gonna be in Samoa on the beach or in Hawaii or in Florida, and I'm not worried about income. I'm not worried about working. I'm spending actually being free with my family and not thinking about any of those things. Well, that's the life you get when you retire properly and respectfully, and that just all comes down to the information and where you have your money. And I just know, especially with a few of my uncles that do landscaping, I'm their benefits package because they're self-employed. They don't have retirement. They don't have life insurance and all these things. We're licensed to help you with that. So
Mm.
I always
Mm.
tell my uncles, I'm like, hey, instead of leaving your money at the bank where it's not growing, like when do you plan on retiring? Because the path you're going down, you're going to work until you die because that money is just slowly growing. I laugh all the time when I look at my Chase app and it says 0.001 on the interest. I'm like, this is crazy. But we're taught, remember, as young
Yeah.
kids, we're taught like, hey, yeah, I have a savings and checkings at the bank too. And I always joke because I told you last night my emergency fund account was a cash box in the closet, and that's not where that money should be stored. So yeah, it's just information, man. And I just feel like, when they say the richer get richer, I just feel like that's because of information. It's not nothing else. And
Yeah.
you bring on the habits of the surrounding or the environment that you're in. And I just feel like with me and my wife learning these concepts, you know, we're able to bring that back to the community, which is way more like convicting to me than the money will ever make here, because what I'm going to do to change your life is more than they could ever pay me. And that's just how I look at it. And God blesses us on the back end. So, yep.
Yeah, amen to that. And just gonna segue a little bit. What is the most impactful client story that you've experienced?
The most impactful client story. Wow. Okay, so I have two. So the first one I'm going to give you. So, you know, when me and my wife were going through training, and here's the thing, because people are like, Lee, yeah, I'm not interested. That's something I don't know. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, my background's football. I don't know nothing about this, but I want to know the knowledge because, like I said, I want to change my family's life, our circle first. So we were going through training, and you know, I had to see my trainer work, and part of our process is to you know, share. My trainer said, Lee, who do you love and trust, and who loves and trusts you that you want to give this valuable information to? And you know, it was my sister. She needed to hear it because she went through the same tragic event as I did, so she needs to hear the information. But if she hears it from me, Leaso in Arlington, she doesn't see me as Lee, the financial anything. She sees Lee as the big bro or the football coach. She doesn't see me as where I'm like potentially going to be working. But I had my trainer with me. She saw my trainer as the professional, and you know, we got to set up her accounts, but the fourth meeting we had was with my college advisor, Palangi lady. She's a professor at Buffalo University. She's married, 2 kids, husband's electrician. And outside looking in, you would look at this couple and be like, you know what? What are we gonna tell them? You know, they got all their ducks in a row. They got everything figured out. But what that taught me was everybody doesn't. What looks like on the outside that you don't know until you sit down and talk. So we started, we got on the call. My trainer was explaining about, you know, what we do. And when he mentioned debt program, she started crying. And I was sitting here, I was like, oh my gosh, what did my trainer say? This Palangi lady is crying on my Zoom call. She goes, Lee, I don't know what made you think about me, but I'm so thankful you thought about me. Here's the thing. I've got a PhD and I paid my whole way through school. I'm going to die paying this debt off. And you guys are telling me right now that you guys have a program that can help me get rid of my debt. And then with the money that's saved from there, we can invest that. That's why she started crying. And then we started to talk about insurance because we protect families, right? That's the foundation of a financial game plan is life insurance. And sometimes we think it's like, I don't know, that there's a lot of things that are out there, but you know, we just break down contracts. We don't do we're better than you, he say, she say. No, let me see these contracts, because the lawyers make these contracts to protect the company versus it actually protecting you. And I just want to make sure you know how it works. So Miss Cheryl's her name. She had 3 or 4 contracts, 3 or 4 policies that a friend sold to them. And a couple of them, the kids weren't covered on. So she starts crying again. She's spending about $300 or $400 a month because she just doesn't know how it works. Okay. And we were able to help save all of that money, put them in a vehicle that is more beneficial for their family. And with the money we saved them, we opened up Roth IRA accounts and started stuffing the money there. So we will help it grow. So that was one meeting that convicted my heart, because here's what it taught me. I don't care what you do for work. I don't care what your job title is, because the chances are if you make a lot of money, you're probably spending a lot too. We cater to the middle income class because they're the market, the biggest demographic of people that gets left out in the rain. We're always working all the time. We're always busy, paycheck to paycheck. And not saying all, but most of us are broke. I'm speaking only for me and my wife. That was us. We're always too busy. We never see each other, paycheck to paycheck. And you would think Lee's a teacher and a coach. No, we're overworked, underpaid too. Okay. So that was the first convicting client story. The next one was more convicting because I was training one of my agents. And this is what taught me about just being able to bring more value to somebody, even when they want to wait. So I'm training one of my agents with her sister. It's a Friday, and I still kind of get emotional about thinking this because you know, I love what we do because it changes lives. But that Friday, the girl Jessica was like, Lee, everything's beautiful. I want to get all my accounts put in place. Let's just wait till Monday. And me, I never wanted to be one of those pushy guys because I've seen them in the industry before. Pushy, pushy, pushy. Hey, you need to buy this. You need to do this. You need. I just that wasn't me. Like I said, I don't never convince people. I bring value, and then you make a decision based off what I presented. So she wanted to wait till she got back from out of town. She goes, Lee, I want to do all this. Let's wait till Monday, and then we'll get it taken care of. Well, Monday morning happened, and she had an aneurysm, and she was gone. And the thing about that, Arlington and Leaso, like to me, like that because it's not all about making money here. Like I'm really passionate about trying to change your life. And in that moment, I'm like, what could I have said different? What could I have said different? Because she left 2 kids behind. And me and my wife went to the funeral, and that's all I was thinking when we were sitting there. Like, what could I have said different to bring more value to her, so to make her understand that time is something we don't have. And that was just a teaching point for me. And we went to the funeral just to show our love and respect. But that I always have these little situations that convicts my heart and also lets me know that I'm in the right place and where we're supposed to be working. So those were the 2 client stories that kind of like changed my life and my perspective, and I know why I'm here. So we're going to continue to bless families and bring value, and I even if nobody does business with us, Leaso or Arlington, I'm just happy that you have the information and the tools, because what you can use it for, I don't charge you for that. Now, if you go sit down with one of these big, Edward Jones types of companies, they're going to charge you for even just talking.
Mm-hmm.
And before you get to sit down, they're not going to sit down with you if you don't have at least 50,000 in your savings or checkings. And a lot of the times, our people in the middle income class, like I said, we get left out in the rain because, those financial advisors are chasing the wealthy people because they know they have money. So who helps us?
Yeah.
That's where we come in.
Yeah, I was just thinking about like because I was thinking about our people in back home in Samoa, especially in America, Samoa, the packages that are presented to them and the jobs that they have, and it's just
Right.
very they don't have that benefit that you're presenting right now. And I'm mostly also thinking about my sister who's in the military and the other one that has is a business owner. She needs to hear this. So this is something exactly that I'm going to share with them. And so for those who are listening, I mean, reach out to Lee Foliaki and his wife, and if you need more information, call out to, you can reach me or Arlington to get you in touch with our brother here, Lee Foliaki and his wife, because they have the tools and information, and are also licensed here in America with the knowledge to present that for you guys. Um, I wanted to add, you had mentioned in a previous podcast, you don't believe, everybody always says fake it till you make it, right?
Oh yeah.
But you have a different concept. Instead of saying that, you have faith it till you make it. Tell us about that, because that ties into what you were just describing about with these the financial business that you have.
Yeah. So just think about it. The word fake, right? Like what pops in your head when you first hear the word fake? And I've heard that growing up, like, people older than me, they're good people, but maybe they didn't know either. But fake it till you make it. And when I think about that, I think about, I don't know if you've ever seen the meme of the kids that are training, but they don't touch the line. You ever seen that picture where there's like
Yes.
this much space between touching the line? That's it pops in my head like fake it till you make it. Like they don't touch the line, so it's like, oh, it looked like I did the work. But
Yeah.
no, those little, that one step could be the difference between you winning or losing a game. It could be the difference between you gaining a blessing and not. So like, yeah, fake it till you make it. I don't agree with that, but I wholeheartedly believe in faith it till you make it, because that's what it has to be. You've got to believe in the something that you're working towards, and if you got to believe in something that you don't even see that's happening right now, because it's going to happen. And if you trust God to back your work ethic, then everything's going to work out. So, oh, I'm sorry, this just popped up.
We're taught to work, then school, then get a job, and cycle
Ooh,
continues, which
yes,
is the rat race.
so that's absolutely right. So when I read that book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, it talked a lot about that. So it talks about the school system set up to create employees, right? So we go to school how many days? 5, and we're off how many days? 2. We go to the
Yeah.
job, we work 5 days, and we're off how many days? 2. And I was sitting there, I was like, hold up, like this is crazy. And the thing is, if you really do some research and see how the government is set up, and this is not a conspiracy theory, like it's facts. Like the government is set up to cater to business owners. And when I had started when I read the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, I was like, okay, so if I continue to do what I'm doing here at the school district, I'm going to be the miserable coach that really doesn't have anything to show for anything that for this long period of time that I've been working, and I can't pass my high school job down to my kids. And I've always wanted to have a business. I just didn't know what it was going to be in. Well, this business made sense because here's the thing. Our partner company, Primerica's pockets are so deep. Like I don't have to worry about payroll. So my mother-in-law, we always talk business, right? Because they have a restaurant in Copper's Cove. So if anybody on this call ever goes through Copper Cove, please go to Toa's Ohana. That's my in-laws Hawaiian barbecue restaurant, and they cater to the military and all those people. But we always talk about profits and losses, right? So I always ask my mother-in-law, I'm like, yeah, so what are you bringing home after all the expenses? Well, she's got to pay payroll. They've got to do supplies. Those are things I don't have to worry about, because the only thing I have to worry about as far as overhead is probably paying for rent space at the office, which is like $300. So as far as profit, yes, I don't have to pay my agents. So we have about 28 agents that work out of our firm, but the company pays them. The company pays them. That doesn't come out of my pocket. So when we start talking about business and what was our upfront investment, there wasn't really a heavy upfront investment to start our company. And I just feel like traditional businesses, you gotta invest a lot of money to start a business.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times the small businesses don't last because it's just, what are you bringing to the marketplace? And, I understand like what we do. People are born and people die every day. Like the talk about finances and money never goes out of style. Like it's always on our mind, right? So if I sat here and asked the chat, hey, how often do you think about money? Like, what do you guys think they would say? Like probably every second, every minute, whether it's stressful or whether it's positive, it's always on our mind. So, and I've also seen a lot of biblical financial concepts, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like, people say that money's the root of all evil, but if you're not really reading the whole context, and I've heard this from the most Christians, right? Look at Duke. What's up, Duke? Yeah, the money is, for the love of money is the root of all evil, right? Money's a tool. Money's a tool. It goes up there. It's important just as much as air is important to us surviving. And that's what I share people. Me and my wife want to get super wealthy. It's not for no personal gain, but dude, we can help way more families if we have more to give. Does that make sense? So, I hope that answers your question. I'm sorry, I'm probably just rambling, but
No.
No, you're good. But, I like what you mentioned, and going back to the previous question, I just wanted to. Me and Leasa, we always say this on our podcast, but we usually say it on the side, not in front of our viewers. But we always have this belief that the guests that we bring on our podcast, it's not an accident, and it's a purpose, and we always find some ties to either ourselves or there's always a connection. So we always find value in it. And when you were mentioning something about um, the lady that passed away and just not having that insurance set up correctly, that one kind of hit home because that was a similar situation that I had with my mom. So it's a sore subject for me, but I really understand the importance of insurance because if you don't have that set up correctly, I mean that can be a detriment not just for the immediate family, but everyone else that are responsible for your parents. Belongings are different. Us polys, when our parents, if they don't have insurance, well, it falls on us and the
right,
rest of the family. So what you guys bring to the table is valuable, and we need to, like we always say, change the narrative.
right.
Let's not always do these what do you call it, crowdfunding or um,
GoFundMe's.
yeah, we need to you know, invest in these insurance and get the right ones and give to the right people.
Yeah.
And I like the people that you also mentioned something important. I also want to bring up is people don't appreciate the package, the value that you guys bring to the table. So the message you're providing here, if you were to ask someone else to have a one-on-one session, it's going to cost you several hundreds, probably a lot more.
Yeah.
So for our Polynesian or Pacific Islander, folks who are out there, don't look at this as like, hey, free information. This is something that someone, time is value.
Yeah.
And to equate that, that is something like just feel like you've gained part of a package that you didn't have to pay for. So hopefully this session provides value to you, whoever's listening, or either later on. I want you guys to take this to heart because our people need to recognize the change that we need to implement in our communities. I just wanted to revisit that subject.
Mhm.
No, that's big too, Arlington, because so here just to give you kind of a scenario, right? Could you imagine if our, let's just say, let's go a couple generations back. Can you imagine if our great grandparents had this knowledge
Mm-hmm.
and what would have been transferred down? Because I grew up here in Texas. Our neighborhood is majority Polynesians, but there's some Balangi folks around. And I always used to hear, oh yeah, my mom left me this, my dad left me this, my grandparents left me this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they have all the things, which could be materialistic to some people, but they have the means to have those things. And what they were saying that was passed down is money. And it was coming from just having life insurance. And it's the simplest form of creating generational wealth. And I'll just share to you guys how we've talked to our kids about it. My mom and dad, they understand it, even though they don't have much, because when we got into the game, they were covered with one of the worst types, but the point is they're covered. And my mom said, on the day me and dad is going to go, I do not want you and your sister to feel ashamed that you cannot come up with the funds to take care of this. And that hit home. And I'm like, dude, and then my brother's situation happens. And it was like, okay, God, I hear you talking to me. I need to get this in order. So me and my wife, we're covered with big checks. Something happens to me. And I'm just going to give you all something practical. Something happens to me, my wife is getting a big check, okay? And she better not type laughing emojis in the chat either, because I'm gonna be here for a long time. But my wife's gonna get a big check. And here's the thing: if you don't know how to manage your money at this point, well, guess what you're gonna do with it? You're probably gonna go spend it all, just like the lottery ticket winners, right? They get the money and it's gone. Well, my wife understands what to do with it now because we've learned. And we've taught ourselves, because you can always teach yourself. You can always reprogram. You don't have to say, oh, this is how I was raised. No, you can still reprogram. So my wife knows what to do with that. She's going to pay whatever debt we have, and we don't have much. And then with whatever money's left over, well, guess what she's going to do? She's going to put that back into the investment accounts. Our oldest, Kylie, she's 18. We've already taught her, when mom passes away, you're going to receive a check. And then whatever you and your siblings have that is, as far as debt, maybe car notes or whatever, pay that off. Whatever's left, you're going to put it back into this account. Well, here's what's going to happen to our kids. That those funds are going to be transferred down. It's going to continue to be transferred down, because in our investment accounts, that money over time will start to compound. And my kids are going to be born into this. They're already born into this. They don't even know it. You know what I mean? And then we're building a business that's also going to be passed down to them too. And that's just, I would have never learned this had I not met, who was training me and teaching me and showing me the way, because he was already doing it. And Jacob got into the business he was a teacher and a coach, but he just wanted to make an extra 500 to fund his retirement account. Like, how crazy is that? Because we don't think about these things. We rely on 401ks. And then when we get to the end of life, we figure out that the 401ks doesn't pay us like it was paying us when we were working. So how do you keep up with the lifestyle? Well, some people got to go back to work. And I've seen that happen in the school district too much. I would see teachers, they would work long time, retire, and then say, you know what, I got bored. And they come back and be substitute teachers or drive the school bus. And my board, I already told y'all, I'm going to be on the beach bored with my kids. And that's what life's going to look like. But it just all boils down to information. So yes, find the information, y'all. You guys got to seek. You guys got to seek. You can't sit back. I used to be bad about sitting back and waiting for it to come to me, but no. Like God ain't never told you to sit there and wait. No, you need to be working and seeking answers too.
Yeah. I think a lot of it contributes to we're just so caught up in I'm gonna do what's I'm comfortable and just sit and
Yes,
relax and let things come to me. And so not realizing that when you say stuff like that, you're actually saying that you're lazy and that you're afraid of taking risk. Now,
yes,
jumping into something else that describes the type of person that you are, because I had learned that you read the book called Relentless. Because
yes,
I'm not promoting Relentless, but I love this
yes.
book.
Come
This
on.
is a good book. So tell me what it is about this book that also inspired you, because I know it also did the same to me.
That book changed my life. So a
Hmm.
lot of the times people claim that they're beasts until it's time to do what beasts
Yeah,
do. So that book, it helped me identify who I was. That book gave me permission to be obsessed. See, a lot of times in life, people are obsessed with the wrong things. I
yeah,
was always obsessed with getting better. I was always obsessed with elevating. I was always obsessed with leveling up somehow, some way. I was going to figure out how to do those things. But when I read that book, it was so crazy because I was told to read that book in training, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I hate reading books," because in school I only read books for a grade. I didn't read it to gain the knowledge so I can elevate. But here in
hmm,
the business, I'm in a leadership position, so it's demanded that I self-develop and I read, so I can sharpen my mentals, because the next person that comes, nobody's gonna follow somebody that can't lead them nowhere. So,
yeah.
but that book, it helped me identify who I was as far as my personality trait. And guys that don't know about the book Relentless, it's Michael Jordan and Kobe's trainer. And it just goes into the mentals and the mindset of those guys, man. Like those guys are relentless in their drive, what
Yeah.
motivated them, and how they feel, like they let pain fuel them. They get into dark spots, and I used to do that with football. Like before the games, I would be crying, and people are like, "Lee, are you okay?" Dude, I was getting into that space because I would think about all of the worst times growing up, and it would just put me in that mind frame that when I get on this field, dude, it's like I'm in warrior, like we're all warriors, right?
Yeah.
Polynesians are warriors, but I would just be getting into that mode. So when I read that book, it was refreshing because it was just giving me permission to be who I am, which is I'm
Mhm.
obsessed with going for things that are that I can't see. I'm obsessed with providing a life that we can only dream of. I'm obsessed for changing lives. Like that's what I'm into. So that book was
Yeah.
big. When you showed me that last night, I was like, okay, Lasso's a beast.
It's just one of those things that it makes you feel comfortable to realize, okay, I'm not the only one that feels this way, and it's okay to be that way because it just tells the type of passion that you have. And so, for those of you out there, I am not trying to promote Relentless, but I also encourage that do go read that book because it really is an eye opener. And so,
Yeah, yeah. So I know we zoomed past Coach Duke, so if
oh
you could bring
yes,
that back up, I wanted to
sure.
acknowledge Coach's comment. Uh, so he's giving a shout out here. That's my dude right there, solid brother,
Come on, Duke.
follow Coach.
Fire. Let's go, Lions.
Um, Before we jump into another thing, I wanted to also bring up something that's very interesting that I've learned about Lee, and it has to do with the water challenge that you did for the 30-day challenge. It's very interesting because not a lot of people can do that, especially at our age. It's like it's one of those things where it takes a lot of discipline and obedience. So tell us about that journey.
Um, so I'll just touch on the age part too, because I thought about that too, because I'm 43. Okay. So I was sitting there, I was like, okay, so is this going to be like risky for health and all of this stuff? And, I was doing research and I kind of was talking myself out of it. You know what I mean? But here's the thing, I was like, dude, how did Jesus do 40 days, 40 nights? Like, was that water? Was that no food? Was like, how did that even
Yeah.
happen? Right. And I just knew I wanted to change to happen in my life. So me and my wife, we've got big goals. We've got big milestones on the line for this year, right? We're on the verge of opening our second office. We're on the verge of our highest income goals and all of these things. But we sit there and we're praying about it, and sometimes it feel like things aren't happening. So then I'm like, okay, what do we need to do? So one of my boys inspired me with the fasting. Then I started to do more research. I figured out that fasting went hand in hand with prayer. And I was like, okay, so we're not doing the fasting. We're praying all the time, but we're not doing the fasting part.
Mhm.
And I used to think fasting was just, for weight loss. I knew, we do it at church at the beginning of the year to reset, to have a great
Yeah.
year. But I never really knew the purpose of it. So when I started to find answers and I was praying about it, I was like, okay, I can do 3 days. I could probably do 10. So with something that I feel like I can do, I don't think I'm going to get the best results out of something I feel like I can do. So when I started to think 30 days, I knew I couldn't do it. I'm like, no, there's absolutely no way. And what it was doing to me in that moment was it was already training me and telling me that I was going to have to lean on God to get through this process. Because 30 days, dude, do you know food is a love language for Polynesians? Like let's be honest. So
Yeah.
for me to deny my flesh of food, dude, it was only going to be me and God. So what happened was we went through the process. Yeah, I went 30 days. It was only sea salt. I had some electrolytes after a week. And the thing about being disciplined, because that was me and my wife's theme word. It was the theme word going into 2025, discipline.
Yeah.
Because if you're disciplined, you can receive and you can get everything that you want to get. If you're disciplined, if you want to lose weight, boom. If you're disciplined, it's going to happen. If you want to save money, if you're disciplined, it's going to happen. If you want to make more money, work hard and you're disciplined, it's going to happen. So the common denominator of why things weren't happening was just discipline. And when I went through my 30-day fast, I learned control. I learned obedience. I learned to humble myself, because a lot of the times, Lee Foliaki, the beast mode football guy, I stay in that character, but there's every now and then I need to be humbled, and I need to know where all of the blessings are coming from, and I need to know that I need help. I can't do this alone. So I went through the 30 days. It wasn't for weight loss, but I gained so much, man. I killed all the bad toxins, created some new cells, started at 364 in weight, and then finished at 313. And my goal was getting to 275. Why? Because I want to up my insurance. And here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's crazy
That's
because
true.
that was I'm like, okay, so to give blood, I got to get to this certain weight. So I just need to do this. I'm not focused on the weight. I'm focused on the purpose of why I'm doing the fast. But during the process, I end up losing weight. And now to keep it off, I just got to stay fit and stay active. And we're doing that now too. But yeah, it was the hardest thing I've ever been through in life. So I've been through some hard, but that's the hardest I've ever done. But it's been the most rewarding.
And I have to say, like, because I've done it before, right? But because of medical reasons. But you have to say, like, your skin got better, right? You're sleeping better, and the moods change. And I think also at the same time, you're feeling more of the spiritual side,
Yes.
like inside of you, because I think that's another biblical reason why it's mentioned in scripture in the Bible about why it's so important to, they talk about the prophets and so
Yeah.
having to fast. So thank you for sharing that. I'm not telling everybody to do this, but just because I don't want you coming back at me and saying I'm going to sue you because you told me to go. No, this is at your own discretion, and
Right.
this
Right.
is something I've done, he's done, and I'm sure Arlington has done as well. So,
I've
but
done
it
the
is also a healthy factor. So,
I've done the intermittent fasting. Is that what
mm,
you've done or something different?
I do that too. So for me, like I was doing that before I did the 30-day water fast. But the problem about me is, because I'm so busy every day that when it gets to the end of the day, I just eat up the whole kitchen. That was the only problem about the intermittent fasting, because
Yeah,
I
because
was
that allows you to
defeating the
eat.
purpose, right? It was like, okay, I'm busy, so I'm not thinking about food. But then when I do sit down to eat, it's like you eat the whole kitchen. So I was like, okay, I guess it's not working because I'm not, because it's still kind of portion control, like what you're supposed to control. And yeah, but I was doing the intermittent fasting before I got into the 30-day fast, so the transition wasn't too difficult because I was already kind of doing that. But yeah, when
mhm.
you deny yourself of something that you're used to receiving every day, I mean, your mind starts to play tricks with you, and the devil might start to speak to you a little bit, and you just got to stay locked in.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Last night when you mentioned this, I started to say, you know, I think I told you guys last night, today's my day one. So I was trying to think, what can I get rid of and what's the healthier choices. So normally, I know our viewers are used to see me drinking coffee, so I got rid of the coffees. But I'm drinking ice water over here. It's
Let's
not
go.
pleasant, like you said. Day one's always the hardest, but
Yeah.
sticking down this, you know, this ice water here, we'll see. So I'm up to my own little journey here. So today's day one. We'll see the results, and hopefully I
Let's
don't
go.
fall off
That's
the
awesome.
bandwagon in 3 days.
You got this, brother.
Well, we're getting close to the ending of our podcast. So I have some rapid fire questions for you before we get into our closing questions. Person that you trade places with for a day.
Okay. Great question. And I have an answer. I would like to trade places with Jesus. Um, just not to change anything that's ever happened or is happening now, but I just want to see how perspectives, like the miracles, like just if I could just follow him, just see
Yeah.
it live. I think that would be life changing for me. Just to see, like, I mean, what it looked like how people received and treated him. So yeah, that would be my answer. Trade places with Jesus for a day, just to kind of just see the dynamic of all of what transpired.
Nice. Guilty pleasure food.
Oh, that was easy. Polynesian food. Oh.
Yeah. 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 We need our fix.
Polynesian food, man. Like, oh my gosh, that is, yeah. I'm talking about all of the above. Anything Polynesian food, that's yes, it's yeah, that's my weakness, man. So, yeah.
Okay. Worst advice you've ever received.
Worst advice, that oh my gosh, this is tough because I have a lot, but I wanted to just tie this into the platform and just our people. The fact that Polynesian men don't show weakness because we're warriors and we're tough. So you should never cry and all of this stuff. I feel like is the worst advice to ever give any Polynesian child, son, daughter, because what happens is you withhold all of that stuff. And I feel like that's what happened with my brother. Like my brother in his deepest moments, he couldn't feel like he could reach out and talk to somebody because it shows weakness.
Mm.
And to me, I think warriors show vulnerability, even though we're still tough.
Yeah.
But you show strength when you show vulnerability. So I think the worst advice ever for me is if you cry, if you show just the Polynesian thing. I don't know if it's a pride thing or we don't show weakness. Like
Yeah.
I don't think that's good for me or for others. So that would be the worst advice.
That's good. Something you wish you were better at.
Something I wish I would be better at. I would say patience. Uh, I'm I'm impatient at the wrong times. Like when you're building something that is long term, or if you're cooking something that is gonna turn out to be amazing, well, obviously it's gonna take time. And for me, I get impatient with things because I'm like, dude, I want it to happen tomorrow or yesterday, and that's just not how good things that are either being cooked or built or you know uh, created. That's not how it happens. So I would say patience.
You know what? I don't want to be driving next to you on the freeway, so especially in Texas with the road rage, because I don't have patience when it comes to driving.
Oh wow.
All right. Best compliment you've ever received.
Best compliment, I would say, man, that's hard because I know as a parent, the success of your kids or how your kids turn out,
Mm,
I would say is a great compliment as far as a parent because what happens at home and how you train your kids at home will show the results of what happens out in the real world. And I
yeah.
just feel like home training is impactful. And the best compliment that I could ever get is how my kids turn out or how they are. Now, mind you, there might be kids like me who are hard-headed that, give their parents a run for their money, but at the same time, my parents did a great job. I was just one of those kids that always went left when told to go right. So, um, but yeah, I would just say, just as far as a parent, like how good your kids are.
Yeah. An idea most people get wrong.
An idea most people get wrong. Oh, I know I spoke about this earlier. That dang, um, that money is the root of all evil. Because when you hear that and you grow up thinking that it's wrong to make more money or want more money, like to provide and to like, I think that that kind of handicaps us, and it doesn't allow us to go after more, and it keeps us in
Mm.
a safe space. And a lot of I've heard a lot of Christians throw that around too easy without just because it's convenient for them to say. But no, the it's the further love of money is the root of all evil. And then for me and my family, we want to make lots of money because we understand that it's a tool, and we'll be able to do more mission work. We'll be able to serve more people. We'll be able to give more.
Yeah.
We'll be able to tithe more. Like all of those things. Money's a tool, so it's not the root of all evil.
Okay, the last rapid question for you is most overused phrase in sports or business.
Most overused phrase. Dude, that's a good one. I would say knowledge is power.
Mm,
We hear that too many times. Knowledge is power. Well, I've had knowledge. It didn't help me elevate. It didn't help me elevate. But what I've learned is applied knowledge is power.
yeah.
Knowledge is power, but no, knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power because
Mm,
regardless if you have the information or not, you got to go put it to work. A lot of the times we get the plan and then we don't go put the plan into work, and then nothing happens. So yeah, knowledge is not power without applying it. So
and
yes,
that's where you mentioned earlier the detail is so important, right?
yeah. No,
So
because
very
think about
important.
that. We all have assignments. We all have purpose. And we all know what we're supposed to do. But
Yeah.
sometimes we still sit back instead of going to work, and then we sit there and get frustrated because things aren't happening the way they're supposed to happen. But yeah, I would just say apply the knowledge that you have, and if you fail, it's all good. You learn.
Yeah.
I always tell my kids, like, it's either we win or we learn. We are not taking L's around here. So either we win
Mm.
or we learn, but we're not taking losses.
Good, good. Go ahead, Arlington. Sorry.
Yeah, I know we're getting close to our closure. Um, Lee, if your kids could sum up your legacy in one sentence, what would that be?
In one sentence, I would just say, whatever my dad was passionate about, he went after it, whether it was hard or whether it was easy. And he always made sure that he positioned the family to win.
Nice, nice.
So you've turned tragedy into purpose, right?
Yep.
So what is the one truth you want someone in their hardest moment to hold on to?
The one truth, I would just say, even in your worst moments, just ask God for guidance, or just ask Him for strength, because I can't sit here and just tell you like it's going to be easy to deal with, but also just know that there's purpose in every situation. I always feel like things happen on purpose for a purpose. And just speaking with my brother's situation, it was the best thing that has ever happened to me and my family. Like, it's going to change generations what happened. And I just feel like if you look at situations different, just a different perspective, you'll be able to see that there's actually a blessing that will come out of whatever happened. Either you learn something, and I learned that I was taking time for granted, and then it forced me to want to be around my family more, and figure out a way to make work and family time and all that happen together. And I just feel like in those moments, even though it's tough, just know that there's purpose in it, and just pray for God to guide you through it, and things will be better you know, those tough times come to an end. So, it doesn't rain all the time, and the sun will eventually come up. So just stay faithful.
Yeah, yeah. And then when it finally does rain, it starts to flood. So you got to know how to handle that flood, right?
That
Make sure
too.
you got that lifeboat.
Yeah, we can all swim, so it's all good. So
There you go. Well, except for those who live inland like me, and I have waterfalls. So, I mean, I'll take the life jacket or whatever someone can send to me.
yeah, Houston floods a lot. Yeah, so
Yeah. All right. So the last question before we end. You've been in the headlines so many times, and you've been out there, and you're well known here in Dallas as well and around in Texas. When it's all said and done, what's the headline you want written about your life?
ooh, that's that's deep. I've never been asked that before. Wow. Um, it will say Lee impacted me somehow, some way, whether it was through conversations, through acts of service, through business, through church faith. Lee impacted me somehow, some way, and I just feel like that's my purpose. My wife and I aren't here for the money, but we're chasing freedom, and I just know with that comes influence and impact, and the more families I get to impact, I just feel like the more blessings that will come back to this family. So yeah, the word that comes to mind is impact.
Thank you so much, Lee Foliaki. Just wanted to say, like, if there was a reason for us to cross paths and being able to share your journey with all of us, and also I really do admire the stories that you share because especially with the 30-day challenge and the financial stability and knowledge that you have for all of us, that really did inspire me as well. And I'm going to share that also with my friends and family and those who are out there listening. And I wanted to ask you in closing, what would you, for those who are trying to reach out to you, go ahead and share what it is that you information that they can reach out to you if they wanted to contact you.
Okay, so we're on all platforms. On Facebook, it's just my name, Lee Foliaki, verified. I gotta add that in because we have some people trying to act like
Impersonator.
me, but they're not. So with the verified symbol, I think Instagram is takeoff underscore CEO. Takeoff is our branded company name, and then phone number is 214-597-6297. We're open every day, right? We're business owners, so there's not a time that we're not available. Usually this time of night, I'm working with all my West Coast clients and agents, so we're always up to the odd hours of the day. So yeah, reach out. Email is foliaki.pfs at gmail.com. And my wife's email is the letter B, our last name Foliaki at primerica.com if you wanted to, reach our business email.
All right, we have a comment on here. Go ahead, Arlington.
Yeah, faith it till you make it right. Good to hear your story, brother Lee Foliaki, Malo Toko, and big fat Malo to you, Chief Tasi and Sister Leaso, for a wonderful episode. Thank
Thank
you as
you.
well. Thank you for our viewers. Appreciate
Mhm.
everything.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So I just wanted to say before I turn the time to Arlington to close, thank you so much, Brother Fuliaki, and also to your family for allowing us to have the time with you. And like what Arlington said, time is very important, and you sacrifice to share knowledge that is something that a lot of people are charged to to share this information. But the fact that you came out here for our Pacifica to give that insight so that we could take that for ourselves and utilize it and be able to have someone like you in this platform that we are able to relate to. You've been there, you've done that, and you've also been in that shoes that we're in right now, to be able to have someone that we can trust and rely on to get into that platform to help us in our own lives. So thank you again, and to all of those our listeners, thank you also for listening in. We love you all, and reach out to Lee Foliaki and his wife. I'm also going to reach out to them as well, to do the same to help myself and my family. And with that said, I'll turn the time over to Arlington.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Lasso. I also want to thank you, Lee, and your wonderful wife there for bearing with us. I know the time for us here, we're sacrificing. That's the other sacrifice that he's presenting for our viewers is his time. Time as in like it's 1 o'clock in the morning, going on two. But we do it for our Pacific Islanders, everyone across the Pacific for your time zone. So we're trying to accommodate you guys. We're mindful because this information, it's so important for us to get the information to you. And as mentioned before, as all of our viewers, we present that because they're bringing a lot of value to you, value that you probably won't receive anywhere else, aside from a cost. So thanks again, Brother Lee, and and wife. And also thank all our viewers, people that were commenting, people are tuning in. This episode or this podcast wouldn't exist without your interaction or your views. So you also are a part of us. And then last, thanks, Lasso, for your our main effort in scheduling all our invitees. So and appreciate everything that you set up for us. That being said, have a blessed night to everyone. And I know it's not night in the Pacific yet, so be safe out there on your travels. So,
Thank
so
you.
far, muy
Good night.
po.
Good night, everybody.